Hey everyone, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome to Tactical and Practical Day. You know what we do here. This is where we roll up our sleeves and we get tactical with the software, and we talk about how to actually use it for our plans to be the most productive. So today we're going to talk about Microsoft Teams and Microsoft Teams Chat, and we're going to go through it as if you were looking at it for the first time. And we're going to talk about some concepts in Microsoft Teams. So, the first time I started using this was at a company where we started rolling it out maybe about 4 years ago. And what I quickly noticed was happening was we had folks scheduling a lot of meetings that really didn't need to be meetings and sending a lot of emails that really didn't need to be in an email. And we didn't address that. So instead of just sending a couple bullets, there was a meeting scheduled. And instead of sending a long email, it could have been a quick 5-minute phone call. And we never really addressed that and reinforced procedures and policies to help people counteract that. And so what we did do was we rolled out as part of the Office 365 suite, MS Teams. And so what happened was we have a great tool like Outlook and like Teams, but then we added a layer of complexity where we had emails out of control, meetings out of control, and now we have chats out of control. Okay. So as we go through this video and we look at the software and we go through each of the components as if we were to look at this for the first time, we're going to talk about some tips and tricks. The number one tip that I can say is that it's very rare that we're sending emails. Emails is something that we're sending when we want to do an official sign off or send an official letter. For most of the things we're doing, we can do in chats. And just like a email has a title and has an audience, a chat has a purpose. So if you are working and on the left side of your screen, you have tons and tons of chats going and messages pinging all over the place and flashing at you, all that is going to do is add to your to-do list and add to your anxiety levels, and is going to stop you from making progress towards your outcomes, which is what you want to do. So chat should have a purpose. And so once again, you notice that in our tactical and practical talks, we have this fictitious project we're working on that I always refer to, that I say we are working to develop a chat bot, and we have some of it done internally, and we're also working with a vendor to supply us with some features and functions that we can access quickly with them for a couple bucks a month instead of spending 6, 12, 18 months of development effort that we may not even get it as good as this vendor has. And so thinking about that example in a project perspective where we're rolling that out to maybe 1 million or so users, and we're going to start off in a pilot with a small handful of people and then slowly roll it out and refine it like we reviewed in our project plan video, we could have 2 chats. One chat internally for our internal users and stakeholders, and a second chat for our external users. And just by that alone, that would knock down the number of chats and emails and calls we have. All right. So that's kind of the context. That's kind of the frame of how we could use MS Teams versus Outlook versus calls. So very simply, in summary, in 90 seconds or less, things that can be done in a quick phone call can be done in a quick phone call. We can save people time by not having unnecessary meetings on the calendar and having that in chat instead. And we can save people time by long formal things not being in chat, being in the very rare emails. Okay, so that's the 90-second summary on that. So the first thing you're going to notice as we walk through Teams is this page here. This is kind of like the home page, and it's saying, do you want to join a meeting? Do you want to schedule a meeting? And here's a quick synopsis of what's happening, or you could view it in the calendar. And we'll go through some of this stuff in more details later. But if we were to say create a meeting link, it's going to say meeting with, and then the person's name, and we'll create and copy the link. All right. Now we see we have a meeting link. We're going to click these three buttons. Are just called ellipses. We could just call them the three buttons, but it just gives us more options here. Okay. We'll be using this a lot. And we'll say share link. And it's copied to clipboard. And what we'll do is we'll just open up our notepad here. And we'll go to a new tab and we'll hit Control V. And basically what this is this is the meeting link that we can use over and over and over again. All right. Now, if you couldn't see that in the notepad, what I did was I created a meeting link and I shared it. And we can use this meeting link over and over and over again. And we can use this meeting to be unique for a purpose. So once again, for our fictitious project where we're rolling out an internal chatbot and working with a vendor from some external features, we might have one meeting link just for the vendor, one meeting link for our internal clients, or instead of having two, just one meeting link just as it pertains to that project, or one meeting link just that as it pertains to this person, Mark Manfredo, right? And you can do that to have a unique link, sort of like a phone number, right? I have a unique ID for my phone number. You can have a unique link. So that's the first thing I want to cover. The next thing we're going to look at is I'm going to move this down and we're going to click on these three ellipses again here. I told you we would use this again. And we're going to click on settings. And so from settings, there's a couple settings we're going to quickly go through. The first is we want to select auto start Teams and open in the background. The next is where do you want the content to open? Do you want it to open inside of Teams or do you want it to be in a new window? Well, it depends on your preference. So for content, I can keep content here. But for me personally, for years now, anytime I would work with the chat system, I would have a new chat in a new window. So for me, I want to see that in a new window. You may want to keep it in the main window, but you see the new window kind of pops up a little bit. So that's what I want. There's some translation layers here. We're going to keep it in English. Keep the app bar visible when resizing, suggest replies. Okay, and enable spell check. I always want to keep spell check enabled. We'll go to the appearance. And what we'll do is, excuse me, 1 second. Okay. So we'll say follow the operating system theme. There's some skin tone preferences for your emojis. You can select here whatever you like. I'm just going to say medium light. Notifications and activity. Okay. This is an important one. And so what we'll do is sometimes we want to mute everything if we want to focus. If we need some focus time where we want to get into deep work, we can turn this on. Sometimes if we're getting too many pings and people chatting, we can turn the sounds on and off because that might be too much. One of the things I like to do is to say, play sounds when I'm busy or in a meeting. I don't want the sounds to happen when I'm busy or in a meeting. And the reason why I don't want that to happen is because when I'm in a meeting, I want to be able to focus and not be distracted. Once again, these are all preferences. These are preferences that I would recommend, but you can customize it however you like. So this is saying display. So do I want to see messages and content preview and notifications? Yes, I do. But do I want to see them when I'm in an active meeting or a call? No, I don't. And so I'm going to deselect that as well. And the reason why, once again, when I'm in a meeting or a call, I don't want to see the distractions. Missed activity emails. I don't need to see this every hour. I could check this at my leisure, at the very least daily. Okay. And this is just all different ways of notifications popping up at you. We'll keep all that going. All right. Account and org. So this you can manage what your display name looks like based on your company. This is my private account, so there's not much to customize here. Other things you can customize from a privacy perspective, read receipts, let people know when you've seen their messages and when they've seen yours. I'm going to take that off. Um, when I want to reply to someone, I will let them know. There's no need for the read receipt. That's just a personal preference. That's up to you. Turn my camera off when the screen locks. Yes. Okay. Accessibility, devices. If you have a custom headset or something like that, you can change the settings here. One of the settings that I think is important that you turn on that I have is noise suppression. I think that's important. One of the features in the call feature we'll look at later is the ability to upload your voice. You do a couple of tests with your voice, and MS Teams will use the AI to synthesize your voice. And anytime you are on a call, most of the background noise will be blocked out, and it'll focus in on your voice. It's pretty good. That's definitely something I'd recommend. And once again, these are just sort of additional options for you to adjust. So auto brightness for my camera, yes, and soft focus, I'm just going to say yes. This just touches up your background appearance, and I'm just going to do a very, very, very slight touch up right there. Okay. Mirroring your video will make it look like as if you're actually talking to the person. So if you're on camera and you're moving your right hand, you'll see your right hand move on the right side except for the left side instead of the left side. Okay, people, this is where you can sync contacts, block contacts, files and links. This is another important one. This is where you can change the default directory that files are downloaded. So one of the things that I see common with folks I work with when I'm helping them get set up is they sort of they sort of lose track of where all of their files go. What you'll notice is as you start using MS Teams, people are just putting files and chats and documents all over the place. And once again, if a chat has a purpose, like an email has a purpose, then the files within that chat should follow that purpose. Opposed to having multiple chats all over the place, then files don't really have a purpose, which is why files get lost. And so what you could do here is you could say, I want to change the default directory where my files are automatically saved if you want to save them, if you have a OneDrive, if you have a SharePoint, if you're connected to a third-party service like a Google Drive or something. And then you always have the option here to say, always ask me where I want to save my files. I like that saved on. I'm old school. I like to actually look through and browse to the directory and tell it exactly where I want to save the file. So I'm not one of these people that's lost looking through files. Okay, plans and upgrades, insider team, we'll skip past all that stuff. Okay, so let's go into chat. This is where you're going to be spending the majority of your time. And the first thing you're going to notice is it's saying meeting with Mark Manfredo, chat, files, photos. Depending on your version of MS Teams, this may not say files, it may say shared. And what you can do here is just click this button. And once you click that button, you can add people. Once you have the people here, once again, in our fictitious example of creating an internal chat bot and working with a third-party vendor for some additional AI features and functions, you can add all of those folks. If the people you are working with from a third-party perspective have MS Teams and they are outside of your organization and your administrator has allowed it, you can chat with them in a group setting. which is an additional benefit from my perspective. Just as long as there isn't any sensitive or private information shared, just like you would in an email. It is no different than an email. It is a chat, so you guys can work together. If you had a huddle or a sync up or something like that, this is a really convenient way. So imagine you're working on a project endeavor, and on average, the project endeavor is 18 months or so, and you have the chat going. If all of the information is inside of the chat, then all the files are neat and organized. If you turn on something like Microsoft Copilot and you miss a meeting or you miss a day, you can come in here and just ask Copilot what you missed. It'll summarize that for you. So this is a really great way to stay organized. Once again, this is using the chat, adding the folks. You can even add people outside of your organization if they use MS Teams, if your administrator, excuse me, allows it. And you can search through the chat. If you have Office 365 and Copilot is enabled, you can use Copilot. Okay. Files. Once again, this will probably say something like shared once it's a shared and it's not a chat. So I think that is probably one of the biggest, most powerful features for MS Teams. It is this concept of creating a chat for a purpose and keeping the information organized in here, which is quickly, readily accessible, and using that link that we first set up to have it specific for the purpose of this project or this group, so that at any given point, if you guys need to talk and John is in London or Jane is in the California office and Jack is in the Florida office, you can have people from all around the world, all around the globe. You quickly come in the chat. Hey guys, can we get together for a quick 15-minute huddle? They say yes. You click the join button and now everyone is there. Everything that you discuss in that meeting, all the files are saved, are here. And when you enable Copilot, you can summarize that meeting right here. And what it does is it keeps things organized. The more organized you can be, the more you can save yourself mental capacity and time. Probably one of the most powerful features and why I would recommend you use this. Okay, so moving on past the chat, Meet. We covered this a little bit already. Creating a unique link for different purposes, one for you, one for your projects, maybe one for external vendors, and then having that inside of a chat to keep things organized. You can join here with an ID. You can see your meeting schedule here. You can view the calendar here as well. Communities. Okay. The difference between a group chat and a community is you can use communities for different things here. You see it's telling you for school, for business, or life. And there's a lot of options in a community in terms of linking that to an additional SharePoint site in the background, creating an additional calendar, creating different web pages for posts. So a community is something that is going to be lasting longer than just a project endeavor. So in the example we looked at with a group chat, well, maybe we're rolling out this AI chatbot and it's going to take us anywhere from 6 to 18 months. Once that project is closed, it's closed and we move on to the next project. A community is something that I've done in the past, and I'm open to see what you guys have used it for, where we created a LACE, a Lean Agile Center of Excellence, and we had different coaches working in different channels with different teams that had templates, tutorials, guides, and that was a community we built, which lasted for several years until everyone was fully aware what their roles and responsibilities were from a product operating model perspective and from a Lean Agile Center of Excellence. But you can create different communities for different things. I've even seen things where there were communities around helping people with SQL queries. So there was a SQL community where folks could share different knowledge on SQL or different topics. All right, so that's communities, also a very powerful tool. Let's go to the calendar. All right, so a lot has changed with the calendar, and the purpose of the MS Teams calendar, when you have it hooked up to Office 365, is to really, where they're going with this is to replace Outlook. And so, once again, instead of being in Outlook all day, you can just have everything you need in Teams. So you can see your meetings here, you can see your appointments, you can see your holidays. You can say, I don't want to see Saturdays and Sundays, so I just want to see the work week, or I want to see it by day. You can print out your schedule and look at what's happening for the day. So if you have all your meetings scheduled the day before, 24 to 48 hours in advance, and you come in the morning and you're someone that likes to look at things tangibly, you can kind of print that out, see what your schedule is for the day, especially if you're moving from different buildings and you're sort of on the go. But the additional thing here with the calendar is that it is designed to replace the Outlook calendar, have all the features and functions that you would have in Outlook, and you can quickly set up new meetings and join meetings right now, right here from the calendar. Okay, so by double clicking on any of the time slots, you can see here, you can enter a title, put the people, is this reoccurring, right? Add a location and the details for the meeting. So just like you would in Outlook. All right, so we're just gonna close this out. And then last, activity. An activity will pop up at you for all of the things that people had mentioned at you or that maybe you haven't seen. Going to settings, once again, that's where we customize some of these settings to say things like, do not play sounds and do not show alerts when I am on a call or when I'm in a meeting. And the purpose of doing that is so, at least for me, and once again, please feel free to customize this how you think it's best to do it. But for me, when I'm in a call, when I'm in a meeting, I don't want these alerts and displays popping up at me because I find them to be distracting. Some people don't find them to be distracting and just minimize them to their taskbar. But for me, once I am done with the meeting, then I will check everything. And one of the ways you can check them is going through your activity bar here or by actually looking at your chats. Okay, guys, so I hope that you appreciated this opportunity to get tactical and practical, to roll up your sleeves, to actually use the software, to think about some of the new powerful features and functions inside of MS Teams, and to think about the differences of when you're going to use Teams, when you're going to use Outlook, and when you're actually going to have a call, utilizing things like a group chat, even with external vendors, to keep everything organized, setting up a unique link for that project or for those vendors so everyone could quickly join a call, or having those shared files neatly in one spot. And don't forget, if you have access to Office 365 and you have a Copilot subscription, enable Copilot. As you move forward inside of this group chat, for example, you can summarize and synthesize information. It is especially powerful for when you are double booked or you're in back-to-back and you miss a little bit of a meeting. You can just have Copilot summarize it. You can see it right here. All right, guys, thank you so much for this opportunity to share this information with you. I hope this was of value to you. It's of tremendous value to me. I find that this keeps me organized, saves me mental capacity and a tremendous amount of time. Remember to hustle harder, hustle smarter, and hustle with all your heart. Let's talk again soon and have a great day. Bye-bye.